Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, Hello everyone, my name is Ramli. I'm the presenter for today's conference, Ico Isol 2023. I will present the topic of corporate ownership and governance structure of corporation in supporting sustainability, the Shariah perspective. So this is my outlines of the presentation. I start with introduction. So sustainability agenda is basically dominated by the idea that corporation must be responsible in conducting, managing and balancing the economic, social and environmental impacts of its business activities. So there are many arguments say that it is a need for reform in the company law in relation to both corporate ownership and corporate governance structures within the company by revisiting the duties and responsibilities of directors and shareholders in realizing this agenda. However, this reform is not clearly addressed in the Malaysian company law, particularly under the Companies Act 2016, because the provisions are not expressly governed in relation to sustainability. At the meantime, there are so many that arise companies undertaking Shariah compliant businesses have shown their support of this agenda. And it is quite interesting that many discussions and debates affirm the agenda of sustainability from Islam perspective under the realm of maqasid Sharia. So the gaps of this research is that the discussion reverts back to the corporate ownership and corporate governance structure of companies governed under the Act, and there is little discussion that focus on corporate ownership and governance structure of sharikah under the Shariah, and to what extent it facilitates the agenda of sustainability. So the objective is as follows. I have two objectives here. First, what is the scope of sustainability under the conventional standard and its position from Islamic perspective? And secondly, how business corporate ownership and governance structure can play important roles in supporting sustainability under the Companies Act 2016 and its cooperation from sharikah under the Sharia. So this comparison is very crucial to highlight certain aspects that can be adopted for Sharia compliant business entities in Malaysia, particularly in achieving this sustainability agenda. So with regard to sustainability under the conventional mainstream, it has no clear definition, but it is defined as to the context of focusing mainly three pillars, i.e. environmental, economic and social welfare. So corporate ownership with regards to corporate ownership and governance structure of company in a nutshell. For your information, Malaysian company law is based on the common law. So it is the fundamental legal principle of company as a separate entity, distinct from its members and directors, is derived from the Solomon case. So this gives effect to the two components of the company, i.e. corporate ownership structure and corporate governance. So with regard to corporate ownership structure, i.e. We usually refer to the shareholders. They are the persons who own shares in the company, and they are proclaimed as the owners, and they are bestowed with statutory legal rights attached to the shares, for example, financial rights and governance rights. In relation to corporate governance of company, it usually leads to the concept of separation of share and control between the members and the directors where the latter manage the company. And this division of powers is embedded in the common law, where the shareholders could not interfere nor override the board's management decision. And it gives rise this division also gives rise to the discussion or debate on shareholder primacy and stakeholder theory. And regarding the sustainability agenda, Jafel argues that the shareholder primacy becomes the main obstacle to the former due to its lacking social embeddedness, which favor merely on financial wealth for the benefit of shareholders. So with regard to duties of directors under the common law, the directors must act in good faith in the best interest of the company, but in the case of Green Health, it was held that the company where the board must act in the best interest of the company as a whole, uh, that refers to the shareholders and the general body. However, there is a recent practice permit directors to consider other stakeholders' interests rather than the shareholders. However, this not clearly addressed in the Companies Act because the case law recognize these stakeholders' interests. So it is argued that no specific provision is required. So recently, there is a provision, i.e. Section 195, that bestows the shareholders' right to review the board by requiring the chairman to provide opportunity for them to question, discuss, comment, or make recommendations to the company. But this provision is quite contentious because many argue that it does not give powers to the shareholders to dictate the board, as the recommendation is merely persuasive and is not binding on the board. So moving on to the Islamic perspective of sustainability. So Islamic business in Islam generally, in general, Islam encourage Muslims to participate in economic activities, including business, but it must be tied with ethical conducts embedded in the Shariah or Islamic law. So from the perspective of maqasid Shariah, um, um, in preserving property, for example, there are specific objectives related to it. For example, inclusivity, circulation of wealth, and fairness among the contracting parties. So these objectives take into consideration of the benefits and interests of the ummah in totality. So in a nutshell, Islam promotes the preservation environment that entails preserving its resources by utilizing and maintaining them properly, and by forbidding their extravagant use and destruction unnecessarily. So with regard to sharing of ownership and participation right in management of sharikah and mudarabah, so although this discussion is quite technical, the author attempts to deliver a point that the ownership and participation is embedded among the partners under the sharikah structure. So because they provide the capital, and all partners must be capable of conferring and bearing wakalah. So all partners may contribute to work and are entitled to participate in the management. However, they may agree the management be carried out by one of them. In terms of decision-making process, every decision taken by the partners must be with their agreement and their consent. So under the mudarabah or silent partnership, the capital is passed by the Rabbul Mal or the capital provider to the mudarib entrepreneur to manage it on his behalf. So such management of business is delegated to the mudarib and delegated, and some scholars view that the Rabbul Mal is embedded to participate in the management, but some view that it is not necessary so long that it does not violate the objective or the maqsad, the objective contract of mudarabah. So such participation of Rabbul Mal in the business with mudarib is permitted under Sharia. So with regards to duties of partners in relation to sustainability, the scholars did not directly discuss the duties of partners to support sustainability in conducting their business. However, the discussions on the obligations to pay zakat as a social philanthropy in Sharikah Mudarabah are well recorded. So all classical scholars agree that the partners are obligated to pay zakat in their capital and profit, and their dispute on whether joint ownership does give effect to the zakat payment. So these examples evidence their obligation to support the society in such a way that their business also promotes for sustainability, i.e. zakat aims to help the zakat beneficiaries combating poverty and aiding the poor. So in regards to observation analysis, it shows in the corporate law setting, it's all about um, corporate. It's all about maximization of wealth of shareholders. Although under the law, under the common law, under company law, particularly, it is not a requirement under the law. However, it is a norm that the company must maximize the wealth, the return to the shareholders. And however, the problem in the corporate structure is that the shareholders are benefiting from the returns, i.e. the dividends of the company upon its declaration, but they have no responsibility in the management. And with regard to the director's duties against shareholder and stakeholder privacy, it is not deniable that the board have exclusive power to decide in the management in the best interest of the company, but it usually goes to the maximizing the shareholders' benefit of financial wealth. Although stakeholder theory is considered in several case laws, it is still within the board's discretion and must be aligned with the benefit of shareholders. So no doubt that the director's duties toward the stakeholders' sustainability is highly imposed due to strong corporate norm. This strong corporate norm. So the sustainability agenda, which falls under the stakeholder primacy, is impeded because of the unreadiness of the company law to cater other externalities within the corporate governance of a company. So, under the law, allowing the directors to consider their interests different from making this consideration obligatory upon the directors. So, with regard to the perspective of Islam or Sharia, sustainability has its foundation under the Sharia, and it is covered under the preservation of property, part of maqasid Shariah. So it reverts social solidarity and sharing of prosperity. And Islam does support businesses, and provided that it must comply with the Sharia rulings and also maqasid Shariah. And it preserves to serve the region and benefit the ummah collectively. So with regard to business ownership and governance structure within Sharikah and Mudharabah, the author identifies two perspectives, i.e. macro and micro perspectives. The first one, Sharikah pertains to profit sharing, risk taking and resharing, and they have equal right in terms of participation in management. So their decision making is also based on a consensus and is in line with the concept of shura or consultation in achieving sustainability. And their relationship is based on wakalah or agency that represent each other, so based on trust and honesty. The same goes to Mudharabah, and interestingly, in the Mudharabah structure, although the Mudharabah is embedded to participate in the management with the Rabbulman, some scholars view that it is permitted so long that it does not go against the objective of the Mudharabah. So it shows that Sharikah is very flexible. It very emphasizes very much on the rights and duties and obligations of the partners in managing business, as well as sustainability to externals. And from macro perspectives, and since it is recorded that the partners are obligated to pay zakat, it shows that Islam supports sustainability. And it shows that the obligation reverts back to the owners of the capital, i.e. the partners. So this is interesting where when we try to relate to the previous section 195 previously, there is a movement to reconsider the shareholders' role to participate in the management throughout this while, where the company law does not emphasize this very much. So it is very interesting to see this movement in the company law. So all in all, the obligation and responsibilities are mandated on the partners being part of their Islamic business ethics. In conclusion, the company law is not prepared to address sustainability agenda because of the strong norm of shareholder primacy within the corporate governance of company coupled by its ownership structure, which attends to this end. In contrast, Islam not only supports sustainability under the maqasid Shariah, it depicts Sharikah as a commendable business vehicle in realizing this agenda. Because Sharikah is single entity, inseparable from the members in terms of unity of ownership and management, where they are responsible collectively to conduct business altogether to manifest a social and economic benefits to society. In fact, conducting business Islam entails a balance between profit objective and social well-being. So, in a nutshell, the author suggests that companies conducting shared common businesses could consider the application of this business concept into the corporate ownership and governance structure to achieve sustainability agenda. Such application would at least complement maqasid Sharia, which put highly emphasis on equity, justice, social, and sustainable impacts toward the ummah as a whole. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you.